In to A to Z Sports prime time on a Wednesday night. Hope everybody is feeling right, living well, and ready to talk about these Tennessee Volunteers. Given that it's game week, they will play a game at Neyland Stadium tomorrow. It's incredibly exciting. For most people, I think most Vols fans are ready to get the season underway, and so they will do so tomorrow by squaring off against Bowling Green. Tonight, we're going to talk about how they have the opportunity tomorrow to make sure that this fan base does not completely give up hope right out of the gate. They can show you something, even if they're not the best team throughout the course of the year, and certainly once they enter SEC play. Tonight, we're going to talk about how they can get up to speed and get these fans, get you guys invested in this program and in this inevitable rebuild. We'll spend some time on places that we are concerned about the Vols team this year. We'll talk about the game itself, a lot of good stuff. And because, by the way, there's no primetime show tomorrow night because, of course, the Vols will be playing, and we have live halftime and post-game coverage for you right here on the A to Z Sports Network with Charlie Burris and I believe Jonathan Crompton, former Vols quarterback. So stick around. It won't be me tomorrow, but you'll get the Vols content that you need at halftime and postgame of tomorrow night's festivities. We'll do the Brymak bounce back tonight, though, however, since we are off tomorrow and also on Sunday for the long weekend. So looking forward to a little bit of rest and relaxation before football kicks up in full swing. Before we do any of these things, I need you to share this show on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. If you view with us on Twitter, you can retweet the show, just like I have done in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Get the people going that way. Get your Twitter friends involved, like El Boogie 808. If you are hanging out on Facebook Live, like Skylar Tarpley or Charles Hardaway, you can share now to public. That is how the people get involved on Facebook Live. It's in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. If you're like James Strickland or Evan White, you can be on YouTube and you can subscribe to the A to Z Sports channel, where you will get a notification every time we pop on live. Great content all throughout the course of the football season, 7 days a week. Vols talk specifically tonight. It's been a minute, given how much has been going on with the Titans, and we will make sure that we have a good time over the course of this evening together. And now that more of you are here, we can go ahead and begin the show officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports prime time on a Wednesday from the DraftKings Sportsbook Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising. I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by the fine folks at Two Rivers Ford. Since 1983, they have been giving you exceptional customer service and customized vehicle experiences, like I'll tell you about later. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet, or online at tworiversford.com. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is DraftKings Sportsbook. Promo code A to Z Sports gets you in on all the action, like for the college football season, of course. The Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage is where you go for your dream address without the stress. The official real estate agent of the Titans, the Preds, and A to Z Sports Prime Time, as well as Brymak Mechanical, BRYMAK, Brymak.com. So, with this Vols team, low expectations, I think, a starting quarterback named, and we'll spend some time on that over the course of this evening, but a good opportunity against a bad Bowling Green program to get your feet under you, get your sea legs, and get things started, get things in place ahead of this 2021 season. Now, you cannot afford for a flub like you had against Georgia State at the start of the 2019 season, before things kind of started to turn the tide under Jeremy Pruitt. But more than anything, I would say to you that the situation for the Titans, for the Vols, is that they simply have to get a rhythm on offense. And we'll discuss that at great length. Kim Taylor just simply pops in there with a Roll Tide, so we know how Kim's feeling about it. I'm sure she'll be looking forward to a stogie later in October. But for now, we're talking about the Vols and Bowling Green. Mike Kamses says, had to pause the bus pod to hop in the chat. That shirt you had on looks pretty dope, my guy. Straight back from your trip to Tampa. Football time. Hopefully they don't disappoint tomorrow night. Indeed. So we will see whether the Vols disappoint. But in the meantime, I want your Two Rivers Ford take. What are you most excited? Let's not talk about disappointment. What are you most excited to see of the Vols versus Bowling Green on Thursday? Let me know in the comment section on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. We'll talk about it at length together. What are you most excited to see from the Vols versus Bowling Green on Thursday night? Give me your answer, and we will discuss at length together. And while you guys do that, I'll tell you about the fine folks at Two Rivers Ford before you hear from some people on the Vols coaching staff this evening. Two Rivers Ford is proud to announce the Built For You program, an incredible program that Two Rivers Ford is providing you to further the best possible experience at the best car dealership around. The Built For You program is incredible. You can order any Ford, any color, with any available features and accessories from Two Rivers Ford and have your vehicle delivered right to your door. It's just another way that Two Rivers Ford makes buying a vehicle easy. So if it's not on the lot, it's not a problem. Two Rivers Ford will order the exact Ford you want built just for you. So ask about the all-new Built For You program at Two Rivers Ford today. Two Rivers Ford, love where you buy your Ford. So what are you most excited to see from the Vols on Thursday night against this poor Bowling Green program? Now listen, you are not in a position to where you can sleep on a team like Bowling Green. You have to come out and establish yourself in short order, of course. But I'll say to you that more than anything, there's going to be heavy scrutiny on Josh Heupel. There's going to be heavy scrutiny on this quarterback situation specifically because of how the Vols have, at least in the last couple of years, struggled with that position. What we're talking about tonight is what you're most looking forward to, and I'm curious to hear some of your guys' responses in the comments on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. So let's see what the people have to say. Dude has zero accuracy. Jeff Rubel is talking about Joe Milton, the Vols starting quarterback. Billy Jones just simply says, win the game and be fun to watch. That's all he's looking for. Chris Joyner is interested to see the quarterback play and the defense. Charles Hardaway on Facebook Live says he wants to see Joe Milton have 0 turnovers. Most excited about seeing them win, says Kim Taylor. So she's excited to see the Vols win. So at least it looks like a better game on paper when Alabama plays Tennessee later this year. Eddie Lale on Facebook Live says solid offensive production. Defense first football just doesn't work anymore. Score more, get a couple of stops, and win is the formula of success these days. And that's for the most part accurate, especially when you have the kind of defense that the Vols have, which has just been ravaged by attrition. You're going to be playing fast on offense, so you're going to struggle with conditioning right out of the gate, and that's something that we've talked about at great length with people who report on the Vols, who are in Knoxville every day, and who have talked about this team and report back to us when we have them on the radio show or even on the 615 Sessions podcast. This situation for Tennessee, solid offensive production is what you're looking for first and foremost. And of course, it starts with the quarterback.
Talk going into preseason about wanting to see Joe in this offense, what he looked like, how he, adjusted to it. So what have you seen in 3 weeks of practice, and how has he kind of jumped into what you guys are doing on offense?
Yeah, Patrick, he's really done a good job, really a great job of fitting in, adjusting, learning, growing. He spent a bunch of time in May and June, July learning the system. He's a football smart young man. He's played in games that matter. So for him, it's just been a terminology, a progression, a read. The way we coach quarterbacks is unique. I think Joey's done an incredible job with him, doing the very best he can to prepare him. Really all of those quarterbacks, all 3 of those guys, put him in tough situations, tried to create tough situations in practice and in scrimmages. But I think Joe has caught on really, really well. He's progressed. He's gotten better. He's had bad days. We all have, but he's had bad days. I think my biggest point of emphasis offensively for us in general, quarterback position specifically, how do you respond to the bad day? And I think in general, that's been the message. The quarterback position, every position, right? A bunch of young guys, a bunch of guys that hadn't played a whole lot, trying to instill confidence while bringing adverse situations into play. You can say adversity is going to come, adversity is going to come, adversity is going to come. You just hope it doesn't come for the first time September 2nd at Neyland. So you're trying to create those situations. And to me, not coaching the quarterbacks, I want to see how they respond. And I think Coach Heupel's in the same breath, and I think us as an offense in the same breath at that position. adversity's coming. How do you respond? And continuing to instill confidence through those adverse situations has been the focus at that spot.
So that's Vols offensive coordinator Alex Golish talking about his quarterback, Joe Milton, right? And that's basically how do they create those adverse situations so he's not just dumbstruck when he's in front of 102,000 people at Neyland Stadium, assuming that the stadium is packed out. And we'll see, right? It'll be curious. I'd be curious to see how the fans respond tomorrow night. But I'm excited. I'm cautiously optimistic about Tennessee because I know what they are going to do well, and I know how that system is going to benefit, at least the visibility, the aesthetics of the game for them. Because Billy Jones said it earlier, win the game and be fun to watch. Well, you're not going to win every game this year. We know that. We know that it's going to be a bit of a slog to get to 6 wins, and that would be, it wouldn't. It's not. I think it would be an improvement off of last year's team. But if you're not going to win outright, if you're not going to be dominant as far as wins and losses are concerned, you can be fun to watch and make life a little bit easier on everybody involved. If you see that, if you can showcase an exciting brand of football, I think that's the first step in the right direction. We'll continue this conversation here in just a second, talking about what are you most excited to see from the Vols on the field against Bowling Green tomorrow night. Game 1, week 1, here for the University of Tennessee. We'll talk more about that at length right after I tell you about the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. GaryAshton.com is where you go to win the buyer battle with the best intel in Middle Tennessee. The Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage has the best properties and the best information so that you can capitalize on an incredible Nashville real estate market. The Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage makes sure that you are in the best position to buy or sell your home for more, as is the case in almost every one of their situations, as was the case for me, as was the case for, people like Mike Vrabel or John Hines, the Preds coach or the Titans coach. The official real estate agent of the Titans, the Preds, and A to Z Sports Prime Time is the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage at GaryAshton.com. What are you most excited to see about this Vols team? Puka on Twitter says she wants to watch how Heupel reacts on the sideline, right? That was always a show with Jeremy Pruitt. That's where you started to see things devolve. Blackout Jones says defense, defense, defense. You're going to see no defense, no defense, no defense. I think that the defense, if you're going in expecting competency on defense, I think you're going to be left wanting, Blackout. I think you're going to want to look at this from a different angle, and the different angle is going to be the offense first, and more importantly, the quarterback more than anything. Puka also wants to know if I'm going to be talking about my episode on Bussin' with the Boys today with Will Compton and Darren Bates. We'll talk about that at the end. How about that when we get to the Brymak bounce back? Candidate of the week. Evan says he's ready to be all in on Milton. I hope he woos me, and it's possible. I mean, there are some traits there that make Joe Milton attractive. I think that he has a lot to prove based on his performance at Michigan. He's had some good games, but for the most part, his accuracy leaves you wanting. Now, I don't think they put him in a position to succeed at Michigan. And I think that Heupel brought him in specifically to maximize his abilities. How far he can maximize those abilities remains to be seen, but certainly something that I'm excited to see play out. First off, running through the tee, but next, a quarterback that is the same size as Derrick Henry, says Brad Lifford. That's right. He's a big boy. 455 packed stadium, rocking in the first run through the tee is what Mark Jones is excited to see. I'd be curious to see if it's anywhere close to packed for a Bowling Green game, but maybe so, because Vols fans have waited a long time, at least a calendar year, to be able to get back into the stadium in mass, and we know that the Vols are the most passionate fan base in the state. More than anything, I think what I'm excited to see is their brand of football, right? I'm excited to see them try and make this a watchable product once again. I'm excited to see actual offense is basically my answer to this question, because what I observed last year with the University of Tennessee was horrific. It was not just bad quarterback play, but it was bad offensive game management. It was bad development by the staff. It was poor, really just poor execution all around from the coaching staff on down, and it seeped through to the players. 21.5 points per game last year for the University of Tennessee, getting outscored by their opponents 30.1 points per game, and really, really struggling to score on a regular basis. Their passing game was anemic. We know the struggles that JG has historically had. Their third down conversions was a struggle, 30% on third downs, allowing opponents to convert 47% against their defense, which again is not, I don't expect that to particularly improve. They were competent in the red zone, which more often than not, they had a red zone success percentage of 73.9. So we'll see if this team, this unit, this offense can't create more explosive plays, more big play opportunities, more manufactured offense, because the red zone for the Vols last year was acceptable. Everything else, though, was a real slog. What I'm most excited to see from the Vols on Thursday is I'm excited to see an actual offense, because no matter how bad it was against or with Jeremy Pruitt and Jim Chaney, I imagine that even if it is not winning football that they're playing this year, that it will be a better offensive product. That much I am certain of. Dom Odell says he really likes these receivers. I'm excited to see Jalen Hyatt. I think Jalen Hyatt is going to be a stud. I think he was underutilized, and I think he is one of the players that stands to benefit most from this coaching change throughout the course of this. Skyler says, I disagree. I think our front seven on D is going to be dang dangerous. I would strongly disagree with your disagreement, Skyler, because I think your defense is going to really suck. Just being realistic about this particular situation. Evan says, great seeing you again. Love your show, brother. Well, I appreciate that, Evan. Thank you for chiming in. Jeff Sawyer says it will just be so nice to not see Jarrett Garantano at quarterback. And, I wish him all the best at, where is he? He's at Washington State, I believe, if I recall correctly. So I wish him all the best in his continued college athletic career. But yes, I'm excited to not see JG out there on the field for the Vols for the first time in what felt like 110 years. Let's move on and let's talk about areas of concern, though, because there are areas of concern right now, and I think that's completely fair. Colin says, just listen to your Bussin' with the Boys episode. Funny as hell. Well, yeah, we'll talk about the Bussin' episode here in just a second when we get to the end of the show, because I wanted to make sure. Actually, I don't think I can play the clip that I have for you guys because, we don't use the F word on the A to Z Sports platform. Well, I mean, I do on my podcast, but we try not to do it on the primetime show. So I don't think that I can play for you my clip from Bussin' with the Boys, because I do cuss. Our Wiseman says simple math. That's right, buddy. Simple math. Remember that. It'll save you some money, and instead of those wipes that Will Compton was trying to shill. Anyway, what areas of about the Vols concern you at this point? What areas of this Vols team? What is your biggest concern for the Vols 2021 season? Let's put it that way. On Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. What are you looking at and saying, what are you looking at and saying is, okay, this is the area that you're most monitoring at this point? Karen O'Keefe says there are a lot of F and other words. That's right, Karen. I apologize if I've offended your delicate sensibilities, but unfortunately, that's what I sound like, much to the shame of my parents and those who raised me. But yeah, that's what I sound like in my unfiltered time. So what most concerns you about this Tennessee Vols team? We'll talk about it over the course of this evening's show. While you guys weigh in with your selection, with your comment, I'll tell you about DraftKings Sportsbook. America's top-rated sportsbook app is DraftKings Sportsbook. Football is right around the corner. It's literally tomorrow in the case of college, but you can get in on the action with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. With the NFL returning, DraftKings is giving new customers $200 in free bets instantly when you bet $1 or more on any football game. And all customers can participate in DraftKings Week 1 no-brainer. For opening night, all customers can double their money as long as Tampa Bay doesn't lose by 74 points. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code A2Z Sports to receive $200 in free bets when you place a $1 bet on any football game. That's code A2Z Sports for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text the Tennessee Red Line 1-800-889-9789. Okay. So, what most concerns you about this Tennessee team as we sit here today? Give me your response on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. We will discuss at length together. Let's see. Cussing doesn't achieve anything, says Old Vol. It's a bad habit of mine, and I do think it's a crutch for a lack of intelligence as far as I'm concerned. So, and this is coming from somebody who cusses way more than I should. So it's a lack of intelligence on my part. But sometimes a good F-bomb can really hammer your point home. At least that's what I tell myself. Jackie, depleted roster, says Old Ball. Lack of roster depth due to the transfers. Let's see. He's got better weapons here, says Mark Jones. I'm not sure who Mark is arguing with, but I don't know that he's yelling at me. Let's see. Dom Odell says the transfer portal in to bring some linebackers in, for goodness sakes. Yeah, the linebacker. I mean, the defensive depth is a problem. That's probably the first place that I go. The defense is legitimately concerning at this point. I don't think your secondary is probably where you have the most experience returning. You've got bodies on the defensive line, but I don't know that you have like competent bodies. Like, I don't know that your pass rush was bad last year. I don't know if your pass rush gets better with the way that things are currently constructed. Again, 47.62% of their third down conversions that they allowed last year, 30.1 points per game by their opponents. I don't know how much of that improves necessarily. Now, if you dive into the numbers a little deeper, you'll see things like what the defense was able to do. Sacks, they were not great. I mean, they had 20 sacks in 10 games, by the way, which is less. It's funny that the Vols had 20 sacks in 10 games and the Titans had 19 sacks in 16 games, but that's a different conversation for another day. So 20 sacks on the year last year, and they return a lot of those players outside of most of their linebacking core. You look at things like tackle for loss, the plays that they were being made in the backfield. Of course, your leader in that category, Henry To'oTo'o, plays for the University of Alabama at this point. They were good at that. Tackles for loss, 55 total that they were able to accumulate, and a total loss yardage lost of 208. Basically, they were taking back 5.5 yards per game on the defense with their tackles for loss, which was a good part. But what I'll say to you is that the front seven is I don't really believe in them right now. I think that is probably my biggest concern, the inability to get pressure. I think that when I look at how offenses are just going to run roughshod over college football defenses this year, you're already working against the 8 ball. You're going to have an offense that in theory is going to move fast and score points quickly, which means your defense is going to be tired, going to be playing more. The fatigue will obviously wear in. It reminiscent of like Chip Kelly and the Philadelphia Eagles. Defense, says Jackie Hulbert, with so many dudes in the transfer portal. Buck, how do I feel about Joe Milton, says Power T. I mean, I was not impressed at Michigan, but I don't think that they were doing things at Michigan to put Joe Milton in the best position to succeed. He has a lot of work to do. And honestly, because I was so underwhelmed with what he looked like in his few years at Michigan, that I think anything that he does well, I'm going to be pleasantly surprised by, because I have, as I said, set my expectations pretty low for this entire team. If I don't cuss, I'm going to throw something and break the TV, says Kim Taylor. There it is. Love to see it. Yeah, no, it's just a freedom of expression at that point. Shut up, Buck. Damn, dude, that stat just pisses me off talking about the stats for the Titans and the Vols as far as pressures are concerned. Charlie Arp on Facebook Live says our fast offense is our defense's weakness. We don't have the depth to stay on the field that long. That's my concern. It's true. It really is. That's where I'm looking at this and saying, yeah, I am deeply concerned about the defense at this point. I think the defense is probably going to be their greatest weakness. I feel okay about the offense. I mean, this is probably the deepest quarterback group that they've had in a while. They do have a variety of different talent to pull from if for whatever reason, Joe Milton can't perform at the kind of level they expect. I don't feel terrible about the offensive line, and I'd be curious to see about the running backs are probably the biggest unknown for this Vols team, given that, Eric Gray is now playing at the University of Oklahoma Oklahoma University. And you have, a lot of the offensive linemen that went to Oklahoma for some reason. So for whatever reason, Oklahoma was a hot spot for Vols transfers this over the course of these last couple of months. But more than anything, let's see. So as many as 3 remaining or as few as 1. I'm not sure what Evan is trying to say there. But more than anything, what I'll say to you is I think that the Vols defense is questionable at best. I don't know much about their coach, their defensive coordinator, other than, he wasn't good enough to be the coordinator at his last stop at Penn State. So what am I to make of him as an assistant and coming in to make sure that, or to try and improve upon a unit that was struggling anyway? Maybe anything at this point is gravy, but they can get worse on defense. On offense, it would be tough to imagine. They got a pay raise at Oklahoma, says Collins on Twitter. Vol Steak says, you have a cool voice, Buck. Well, thank you. That's how I pay my mortgage. So it's a good thing that you and many other people think that. Harbaugh, Lamar Jackson, Joe Milton, both offenses limit their QBs, says Dom. That's a Greg Roman thing. I don't think that's a John Harbaugh thing. I'm not crazy about Greg Roman's offense with Lamar in it, but I do think that Lamar has room to improve. Let's go Cardinals, says Lewis Chesney. Well, no, that's not what we're talking about tonight, Lewis, but I appreciate your participation. As always, as far as this Vols team is concerned, they should beat Bowling Green, and they should beat Bowling Green handily. I think that Bowling Green, I don't think they were one of the worst college football programs a year ago, and a lot of people had difficult circumstances due to COVID. I don't think Bowling Green was immune to that at all. But I think more than anything, they ought to win decidedly. I haven't looked at the line on this game for a while, so I'm going to do that really quickly here on A to Z Sports Prime Time from the DraftKings Sportsbook Studios. And then we're going to wrap up the show with a little bit of Brymak bounce back candidates of the weekend, given that we are off Thursday and off Sunday. So we will look forward to doing that with you here in just a second. So the University of Tennessee right now against Bowling Green in week 1, hosting Bowling Green. Now they have a 96.9% chance of winning. The line is Tennessee by 35. Man, I would bet Bowling Green in that instance. Yeah, I would bet Bowling Green. If the line is 35, that's wild, even as bad as Bowling Green was. So, God's got good speed says he took, or forgive me, I'm not sure if it's he or she, took Bowling Green plus 35, 100%. Folks, tore up Milton after Gitmo. Milton is going to look, you're talking about Karen Tano. That's a tough nickname for JG. Milton is going to look like a Ford Focus to a Lamborghini. If we can't cover, says Evan White, I will be concerned. I think, coverage was a problem last year. And again, if your rush is not good, then your coverage looks worse, and your coverage was already bad. So if you can't get a rush, you're going to leave yourself open to be taken advantage of. That's kind of where my concern is. So I would absolutely bet Bowling Green. In fact, I am going to bet Bowling Green. Plus 35 in the DraftKings Sportsbook app. I think the Vols should win handily, but I think that Bowling Green should cover that line. And if not, dear God, that's a bad deal. Y'all are gonna miss me being off Thursday and Sunday, says Kim. Yeah, well, Kim, your Crimson Tide. I think the line for Alabama last I looked against Miami was Bama by 19.5. I also think that I would bet Miami in that instance because Bama is going to be good. Bama's going to be great. But if Miami is going to be able to do anything to them, it would be straight out of the gate at this point. Chris Lawson says, hey, Buck, I think Ron broke your office chair on 3HL today. Broke my chair? No, Ron doesn't even sit in my seat in the studio. So if he did, then it means he did something intentionally, which means that me and Ron Slay and all 6'8" of him, we're going to have words, even though he's got 6 inches on me. I love Slay. All right, let's move on to the Brymak bounce back candidate of the week. So I want to know who in sports needs to bounce back this weekend. Let me know on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. The Brymak Mechanical bounce back candidate of the week. Give me your response on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. We will discuss at length together right after I tell you about, of course, the fine folks at Brymak Mechanical who present this feature each and every week. BRYMAK, Brymak.com, satisfaction guaranteed on all of your HVAC needs. They have 3 locations in Tennessee and in Kentucky to make sure that you get taken care of. They can handle your commercial needs if you own a business. They can make sure that your home is properly heated or cooled. Now that we're moving into fall, it felt so good today outside in Nashville. So I hope that everybody else is getting a little break from the heat. If you are not getting a break from the heat and you want to make sure that you get a break from the heat when you get into your comfort zone in your home, you need to call BRY or check out their website, BRYMAK, Brymak.com, Brymak Mechanical, for all of your HVAC needs. So who needs to bounce back in sports this week? Let me know on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Karen O'Keefe says Bishop Sycamore needs to bounce back. I want a Bishop Sycamore t-shirt. I think I'm going to see if there's not one on the internet that I can buy because I'd like to wear. I would wear that proudly. Absolutely. Dom Odell says ESPN needs to bounce back on the same Bishop Sycamore story. Harold Smith says the LSU coach. Are we talking about Ed Orgeron? I don't. What has Ed Orgeron done that requires bouncing back at this point, Harold? Just based off last season, because they were not very good last year. Brad Lifford says the New York Mets. Yeah, the Mets are a disaster again, and their fans are fighting with their players, and the players are fighting with the fans. It's incredible. DeMarcus Golfin on YouTube says Cam Newton needs to bounce back. I'd be curious to see where he bounces back, if anywhere. But for me, I'm going to nominate myself. I'm going to self-incriminate. I'm going to say that I need to bounce back because I had a moment that we did the Bussin' with the Boys podcast. We taped it on Monday. The episode aired today. You can go check it out in its entirety. It's almost 2 hours long, but it's me, it's Will Compton, it's Darren Bates. We had a great time. But I need to bounce back because I was asked a personal question and I gave a very honest response. And now over the weekend, I'm going to see if I can't bounce back and make sure that the people know that we are in good shape in the department that Will Compton and I were discussing.
Speaking of free release.
Yeah, speaking of free release, Roman. Shout out the boys at Roman. Most guys have tried different ways to last longer, including Buck, but thinking about baseball doesn't always work. What do you think about, Buck, when you're trying to last longer?
I do math. Wow. Simple
The
math.
folks at Roman and Online's men's health company are
Simple
changing
math.
the game with Roman swipes, the secret to longer lasting sex, Buck. As you just heard, Buck, he does math. I would. Hey, next.
So I would play the full clip, but I cuss in a way that we do not allow on the primetime show. So I will say, if you see me tweet out a math equation on Twitter if you watch the full clip that's available on the Bussin' with the Boys YouTube, because that episode aired live right after we wrapped up here, or on my Twitter account where I've tweeted out the full clip with all of the language that it comes with, I would say to you that math equation means something's going on at the Rising household over the weekend, and that will be my version of a Brymak bounce back. And that is how I will leave you. E equals MC squared times Buck equals Du Bois, says Bobby French. That's right. You got to rock it. Evan White says, are you doing the radio show Monday? No radio for me Monday. No. Okay, so here's what's happening, because this is the end of the show. It's the end of the week. Enjoy the football tomorrow, but let me give you some information on the way out the door. So 615 Sessions podcast out tomorrow on all the roster cuts with Teresa Walker of the Associated Press, John Burton of News Channel 5. Also available for you, the Week 1 Part 1 of the NFL season, the Week 1 Part 1 preview, where Greg Cosell of NFL Films and myself talk about we'll talk about 6 of the most important Week 1 games, including the Titans and the Cardinals, but we did the first 3 today. That episode of The Install with Greg Cosell of NFL Films is also available now. No prime time tomorrow because the Vols play, but we will have halftime and post-game coverage right here on the A to Z Sports Network. So instead of me, you'll see Charlie Burris and former Vols QB Jonathan Crompton. And then radio for me Friday, but no primetime Sunday and no radio Monday because it's Labor Day. And I would like a break because, it's a short week. The week has been fun. There's been great content. More great content will come your way. But in the meantime, I'm a little tired, but not all the way tired yet. See you Monday.
No!